Welcome to this Victorian plumbing guide where we're going to be showing you how to install a toilet. This video is to be used as a guide only and we always advise that you seek professional help. You've got two main parts to your toilet. You've got the toilet itself and then the cistern. Now the cistern comes with all of the internals inside it. So when you look in your cistern, you'll have a bag of all the components that you need to install. So we don't need this part quite yet. We need to concentrate on the cistern first. We don't need our cistern top quite yet. That can be laid to one side. Now unpack all of the components that you received with your toilet cistern and lay them out on the floor. Toilet cistern, donut washer, float valve, fixings, flush valve, and last of all, the flush handle. Now we're going to build our cistern up on the floor and always refer to your instructions for your individual toilet as you're doing this part of the process. I always start by unscrewing the nut and washer from the bottom of the float valve and then installing the float valve into the top of the cistern. I then replace the washer and the nut and do it up hand tight. It should look something like this. Next, we'll install the two fixings that fix the cistern to the toilet itself. We place the seals on and then put them in through the top into the bottom of the cistern. Now taking a look at the flush valve, we remove the large nut and take it through the top of the cistern into the hole in the bottom. We then replace the large retaining nut and do it up nice and tight. Next, the flush handle. We'll disassemble it first, removing the arm and the retaining nut and place it onto the front of the cistern. We can then replace those components and hook them up with the flush valve, last of all tightening everything in place. And finally, we fit the donut that seals the cistern to the toilet. So that's the cistern built up and it can now be fixed to the toilet, but it's easier to position the toilet if you can before you fix the cistern to it, because of course it'll be lighter and easier to work with. So our toilet's roughly in its position. There's not a lot of room to work in here. There often isn't if you're in something like a downstairs toilet like this one. So it's definitely easier. Get the toilet in position and then fix the cistern to it. So let's bring the cistern in and fix it to the toilet. Lift the cistern onto the toilet, making sure that the donut and bolts drop through in the correct locations. We then replace the fixing nut onto the bolt and tighten it up, making sure that we do each side evenly. At this stage, I like to pop a little bit of water in the cistern just to check that we don't get any leaks from any of the washers, any of the rubber seals at the bottom of the cistern there. Now we need to find our toilet's final position. We need to push it back to the wall so that we can mark for the fixings for the cistern and the base of the toilet to fix it in place. Now to do that, we need to fit our pan connector. So the pipe that goes onto the back of the toilet, that's called the pan connector, and that's where the waste exits the room. Now pan connectors are usually very different and it's all about finding the one that fits best. To fit the pan connector, I like to start by adding some silicone spray to the seal. That'll make it a lot easier for you to apply that seal to the back of the toilet and push the toilet back in one motion. Once you're happy with your toilet's final location, mark through the holes in the back of the cistern for the fixing screws. You also need to mark for the fixing holes at the bottom of the toilet. We'll then pull the toilet away from the wall so we can drill the holes in the back of the cistern and drill the holes around the bottom of the toilet. The next step is to fit the toilet seat. I like to do this before I do any final silicone around the bottom of the toilet. I prefer to do it this way because if you silicone around the bottom of the toilet and then fit the seat, you're bound to end up hitting that nice bead of silicone. So do your silicone last, fit your seat now. But follow your instructions, all toilet seats will be very slightly different. That's the toilet seat on. Now we need to connect up the water. Once you've turned the water on, you'll see the cistern will begin to fill. Now we can put the cover on the top of the cistern. We're going to give the toilet a test flush and check for any leaks. Everything's working fine, just check all the seals to check that there's no water leaking out of anywhere. Now our toilet's installed, our very final step is to run a bead of clear silicone around the very bottom of the toilet. And that is our toilet fully installed. You can find a wide range of toilets, including the one installed in this video, over on the Victorian Plumbing website.